The 4 simple daily maintenance items are: clean the wash pump intake filter, grease the PBM swivel, grease your turntable bearings, and monitor your sludge level.
At the beginning of every shift, clean the wash pump suction filter. To clean the suction filter, first lift off the front reservoir cover. Use a flexible, long-handled brush to clean the pump intake filter box. Doing this allows your pump to get the proper flow and to provide its full pressure for cleaning your parts. It also prevents damage to the pump from cavitation. At the end of every shift, grease the PBM swivel. Greasing the PBM swivel is pretty simple. Find the grease point on the machine. It is either on the outside of the cabinet, on the same side as the manifold, or you need to open the door fully to the second door position and find it at the bottom of the manifold by the door frame.
Use a hand pump grease gun to grease the PBM swivel joint with Lubriplate 1444 grease. Do not use any other type of grease. Other greases are not compatible with 1444 and are not suitable for the hot alkaline environment. Other grease types can destroy your swivel.
Grease the swivel until you see fresh grease coming out of the vent hole on the swivel. On average, this will take 6 to 8 pumps of grease depending on the grease gun output. It is imperative that you grease the PBM swivel every 8 hours of operation or every day of use, whichever happens first.
The turntable bearings use the same Lubriplate 1444 grease as the swivel. So while you have the grease gun, grease the upper and lower turntable bearings. This is best done at the end of every shift.
First, locate the grease fittings for the turntable bearings. They are either at the remote site on the front door of the machine or on the bearings themselves at the end of the turntable arm. The remote turntable grease fitting option makes it much easier to grease the bearings. Connect the grease gun to the grease zerk on the bottom bearing first and pump in enough grease to completely fill the bearing, purging out any solution in the process. Be sure to count the number of pumps it takes to fill the bearings. Watch for the grease coming out and purging out any water in the bearing. This photograph shows a properly lubricated turntable bearing. The quantity of grease required depends on the bearing size and your washing parameters. Now grease the top bearing using the same number of pumps as the bottom bearing and add 4 to 6 more pumps, depending on the size difference between the bearings. You cannot see the grease coming out of the top bearing, so you must do it blind. Use the count method for greasing. You may ignore this daily lubrication of the turntable bearings if you have a hub-style turntable bearing on the Stingray 30 or 40 washer. These bearings require lubrication on a 6-month interval and is covered by the general maintenance provision in your manual. Normally, the operator does not perform this task.
The last daily chore is to measure the sludge level in the bottom of the reservoir. As you use the washer, the soils you remove either float and can be skimmed off or sink and become sludge in the bottom of the washer reservoir. Once the sludge reaches 4 to 5 inches or 10 to 13 centimeters in depth, you must stop washing and clean out your machine.